She never should be been certified, my mother said into the microphone, and 32 people at my graduation reception went quiet around their tiramisu and coffee cups. 3 days later, my professional certification was revoked because someone had sent forged documents to the state board in my name, and the job I was supposed to start that Monday in Mesa disappeared before I even got my badge photo taken. My parents did not just humiliate me in public. They used paperwork, signatures, and a licensing office to shut down the first stable thing I had built for myself, and the immediate cost to me was $7,840 in lost wages before I could get back in. Then a woman I had never met walked into a private dining room in Gilbert and read one sentence from a call log out loud, and my mother's whole version of me collapsed in under 10 seconds. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing where you're all listening from. My name is Amberly Bennett. I'm 25 years old. Now let me take you back to Firebird's wood-fired grill in Gilbert, Arizona, on Saturday, May 18th, 2024. I had graduated the day before from a medical assistant program in Tempe. Not nursing school, not some giant dramatic thing, just a practical certification that mattered to me because I had paid for it myself. Worked 28 hours a week at a dry cleaner on East Williamsfield Road while I was in school, and finished with a 3.86 GPA and perfect attendance in my externship. I had a job offer from Sonoran Desert Dermatology in Mesa for $24.50 an hour, full-time with benefits after 60 days. To me, that job was not an offer letter, it was air. The private room at Firebird's smelled like grilled onions, lemon wedges, and the vanilla candles they put near the windows. My Aunt Karen had ordered white roses for the centerpieces. My cousin Tessa kept taking photos of the dessert tray. My father, Dennis Bennett, wore the navy blazer he saves for funerals and graduations, and my mother, Colleen Bennett, had on a pale green blouse with tiny pearl buttons and the expression she uses when she wants to look gentle in public. There were 32 people there. I know because Tessa made the seating chart and texted me a screenshot when she asked whether I wanted my old anatomy instructor near my aunt or near my friend Nia. For the first 40 minutes, everything looked normal. My uncle Rob talked too loudly about parking. My younger brother Evan leaned over and stole the crispy asparagus off my plate. People clinked glasses. Someone's baby started fussing near the hall. It was the kind of family event where you think maybe this time everyone can behave because there are too many witnesses. Then my mother asked the server for the microphone. She smiled when she stood up. "That is important." She was smiling. "I just want to say," she said, tapping the microphone twice, "we are very proud of Amber for finishing. We know it was not easy for her, it never is." A few people laughed politely because they thought she was making a joke. I felt my stomach tighten anyway. I knew that opening. My mother likes to begin with praise the way some people begin with a prayer. It calms the room down before she cuts. Then she looked right at me and said, "She never should have been certified. But I suppose some programs are not as careful as they should be." 41 seconds passed after that. I know because later, when I replayed the video Tessa accidentally caught while filming the dessert cart, I counted. At first, nobody moved because people were still trying to understand whether they had heard what they heard. My father did that little cough he does when he expects everyone to smooth things over for her. Aunt Karen said, "Colleen," in this warning tone that came too late to matter. My mother kept the microphone in one hand and smiled like she had merely voiced a concern about undercooked chicken. I said, "What does that mean?" She answered in that careful, practiced voice she uses at banks and front desks and church offices. "It means there are standards for a reason, Amber. We all know you struggle when things become demanding." My face went hot. Not the crying kind, the body-keeping score kind. I stood up. "Are you saying I cheated?" My father leaned in first, of course, not to help me but to manage optics. "This is not the place." My mother lowered the microphone enough for everyone to hear her without amplification and said, "It became the place when you built a whole celebration around something that was not earned." The room went silent again. 32 people, forks down, glasses half raised. My cousin Tessa stared at her phone like she wanted to disappear into it. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my napkin. Instead, I put my water glass down, picked up my purse, and said, "Send me whatever you think you're talking about." Then I walked out through the side door near the hostess stand, past a rack of high chairs and a server carrying two steaks that smelled like butter and black pepper. In the parking lot, the air was still 102 degrees even though the sun was down. My hands shook so hard I dropped my keys between the painted lines of Space 26. My friend Nia followed me out 30 seconds later. She had been in my externship group and she knew my mother well enough to understand that nothing cruel in my family ever happened by accident. Amber, she said, did she warn you she was going to do that? No. Nia was quiet for half a second. Then she thinks she has something. That sentence stayed with me because it was exactly right. My mother never improvises an attack, she prepares one. The next morning was Sunday, May 19th at 9:12 a.m. My father sent a text that said, "Your mother was emotional yesterday and spoken to by several people. Let us all calm down before making this worse." No apology, not one word about what she said being false. At 10:43 a.m., my mother texted me separately. It said, "If there are things your school does not know, that is between you and your conscience." I took screenshots of both. Date, time, contact name visible. I sent them to myself, to Naya, and to a new email folder I labeled Bennett. That is how this story really started. Not with the microphone, with the folder. On Monday, May 20th at 8:16 in the morning, I was in the parking lot outside Sonoran Desert Dermatology on South Val Vista Drive in Mesa, wearing black scrub pants and a new pair of Skechers I had bought the week before for $68.99, when my phone rang. It was the office manager, Paula Kim. "Amber, where are you right now?" she asked. "In the lot." "Why?" There was a pause long enough for me to hear someone in the background asking for a chart. Then she said, "I need you not to come in. We got notice from the Arizona board that your certification status changed over the weekend." I actually laughed because it sounded impossible. "Changed how?" "Revoked pending review," she said. "I'm sorry, I cannot put you on the floor." I remember the exact smell inside my car, new plastic from the floor mats and the iced coffee I had spilled in the cup holder the day before. I said, "That doesn't make sense. I just passed." Paula lowered her voice. "The notice says there are allegations of falsified clinical documentation and exam misconduct. Amber, if this is a mistake, fix it fast and call me back. I liked you in your interview, but my hands are tied." I said thank you because women say thank you at the strangest times. Then I hung up and opened the certification portal on my phone. The status box that had said active on Friday now said revoked pending investigation. I read it 3 times. Then I called the board number listed on the site. A recording answered first, all sterile and cheerful. By 9:04 a.m., I had a human being named Teresa Hall on the line. She told me they had received documentation on Friday afternoon alleging that I had forged preceptor signatures during my externship and submitted a written admission from my personal email acknowledging I had cut corners to complete hours. She would not email me the packet immediately because of review procedures, but she said a copy would go out by secure email before end of day. I said I never sent anything like that. She said, "Then I would encourage you to review the file as soon as you receive it." Encourage. That was the word she used, like she was suggesting more water or better sleep. By 11:18 a.m., the packet hit my inbox, 27 pages. The first page was a cover letter with my name typed wrong as Amber Lee Bennett instead of Amber Lee Bennett. Small mistake, but not mine. Pages 2 through 6 were copies of my externship hour sheets from Valley Family Medicine in Chandler. The signatures on them looked enough like my supervising MA, Marisol Velez, to scare me for half a second, until I saw they had used the same signature shape in 3 different places with the same pen pressure and the same little upward hook at the end. It looked like someone had traced a signature from a flat scan. Page 7 was a typed statement supposedly from me, signed Amber Bennett, saying I had falsified 12 hours because I was behind and feared losing my position. The email attached to that confession was from an address I had not used since I was 19 and living in my old apartment in Apache Junction. The fake statement used my old address on South Winchester Road. I had moved out of that apartment in August of 2022. Only 4 people had ever had the file folder with those old intake papers in it. Me, my landlord at the time, my mother because she helped me move 1 box when I left, and my father because he insists on keeping family records organized in a locking file cabinet in their den. If you've ever had that moment where you know everything is about to change, not because you're surprised, but because the shape of the lie becomes visible all at once, you know what happened next. I stopped asking if this was an accident. I started asking who had access to what. Stay with me. Because the first person who could have ended this in 10 minutes did not. And that mattered more than I understood at the time. I called Marisol Velez at 12:06 p.m. She had supervised me for 6 weeks at Valley Family Medicine. She was the kind of woman who kept mini Altoids in her scrub pocket and corrected everybody's labeling by instinct. She answered on the second ring. Amber, honey, are you okay? She asked, before I even said hello. That told me she already knew something. Did the board call you? I asked. She exhaled. Friday, late afternoon. They wanted to verify your hour sheets. What did you tell them? The truth, that you finished every hour and I signed the originals in blue ink. I closed my eyes. Then why is my certification revoked? Another pause, then she said, because they also had copies that looked official enough for them to freeze everything first and sort it later. There it was. Bureaucracy in one sentence. I asked her to email me every original record she still had from my externship, including scanned logs, scheduling notes, and any text messages with dates attached. She said yes immediately. At 12:32 p.m., they were in my inbox. I printed everything at the UPS store on North Gilbert Road. 63 pages, $11.20. I remember because I still have the receipt in the binder. That afternoon, I built a timeline on my kitchen table. Fake packet received Friday, my mother's speech Saturday night, job lost Monday morning. The forged confession used my old email and old address. The forged externship sheets copied a signature only somebody with access to my school documents could have seen clearly. My chest felt hollow and electric at the same time. At 3:14 p.m., I called my father. He answered on speakerphone. I could hear a baseball game in the background and ice clinking in a glass. Amber, did you or mom contact the board? Silence. Then he gave me the calm voice he uses when he wants to sound like the adult in the room. Your mother has concerns about honesty, and she is not the only one. That was not my question. Your mother acted out of conscience. That sentence was the first admission, I said, so yes. He didn't answer directly. He said, if your certification cannot withstand scrutiny, perhaps it should not. I looked down at the fake packets spread all over my table. You sent forged documents. His tone sharpened just a little. Be careful what you accuse people of. You're emotional right now. I said, do not contact me again unless it is in writing. Then I hung up. My hands were cold after that. Not from fear, from clarity. That night, I texted my mother one line. Did you send documents to the board using my old Apache Junction address? She replied 6 minutes later, I will not engage with abuse. I screenshotted that too. Tuesday morning, May 21st, I drove to my old apartment complex in Apache Junction before the leasing office closed at noon. The place still had the same baked concrete smell and overwatered oleanders by the mailboxes. The property manager, Sheila Duran, remembered me because I had once found a rattlesnake skin on my patio and cried in her office. I asked whether anyone had requested verification of my prior address recently. She checked the logbook at the front desk. On Thursday, May 16th, at 4:48 p.m., someone had come in asking for old resident confirmation for licensing paperwork. No formal record was released because the person did not have authorization, but Sheila had made a note because she thought it was odd. Do you remember who it was? I asked. She squinted at me. A woman, mid-50s, light green blouse. She said she was your mother. I just stared at her. She tapped the logbook. I only remember because she was so sure she should be allowed to get it, like she was doing me a favor by asking. Light green blouse. The same one from the restaurant? I asked if I could take a photo of the logbook page. Sheila said no to the whole page but yes to her making a written statement about the interaction on company letterhead, which she signed at 11:21 a.m. and dated. That was my first outsider document. I went straight from Apache Junction to my school's administrative office in Tempe. The lobby smelled like copier toner and old carpet cleaner. The registrar, Dana Pickett, agreed to see me at 1:10 p.m. once I showed her the board packet. She looked through the forged pages slowly, then reached page 7 and frowned. This is not one of our templates. Did anyone from my family request my records? I asked. Dana hesitated. I saw it then. That tiny institutional flinch people do when they regret trying to be nice to someone manipulative. Please answer me. She folded her hands. Your mother came in on Thursday. She said there was an issue with your hiring file, and she needed copies of your externship verification for insurance purposes. We did not release full records, but she was allowed to view some pages because she claimed she had paid part of your tuition. Did you let her photograph them? Another silence. Yes, she said finally. I thought she was helping you. That is how long it took them to erase me. One front desk smile and a woman assuming a mother must mean well. I didn't yell at Dana. I didn't call her reckless, even though she had been. Instead, I asked for the sign-in sheet, the lobby camera retention period, and a written statement of what had happened. She said she would need approval from compliance for the camera footage, but she could document the visit. By 2:03 p.m., I had her statement and a copy of the visitor log with my mother's signature on it. Colleen Bennett, 4:12 p.m., Thursday, May 16th. There was my second outsider document. That evening, I went to Nia's apartment in Chandler with a tote bag full of papers and 2 burrito bowls. Neither of us touched much. Nia's older sister, Priya Shah, is not my lawyer because I did not hire a lawyer. But she is a contracts attorney in Scottsdale and one of those women who can look at a stack of lies and make the order of attack feel obvious. She spread my documents across the dining table and said, "You do not need a dramatic move. You need a clean sequence." I loved her for that. She had me make 4 folders. One was timeline, one was originals, one was family communications, one was outsiders. She told me to stop calling and only email where possible, because people get sloppy in writing when they think they are being reasonable. Then she pointed to page 7, the fake confession. This person does not write like you. Because it wasn't me. I know, she said, but institutions respond to details. You need comparisons. So I pulled every real email I had sent my program director over the previous year. My normal signature line, my punctuation, the way I always write thank you with a comma after the name, the way I spell my middle name, the fake confession had none of it. It used double spaces after periods. My father does that. When I said that out loud, Nia and Priya both looked up. It was such a stupid small thing. But there it was. My father still types like a man who learned on a word processor in 1993. If you've ever had to build your own innocence one screenshot at a time, you know how humiliating that is. Not because you doubt yourself, but because someone else decided your life was available for rearranging. Keep listening, because the person who finally cracked this open was not my friend, not my school, and not anybody in my family. It was a woman at a state office who noticed one sentence sounded too rehearsed. Wednesday, May 22nd, at 9:20 a.m., I emailed Teresa Hall at the board with a point-by-point response, not legal language, plain language. These are not my words. This is not my current email. This is not my address. These signature pages do not match the originals. The real supervisor confirms I completed my hours. Here are the originals. The visitor log from my school showing my mother accessed records the day before the forged packet was sent, and a statement from my former apartment manager confirming my mother requested address verification tied to licensing paperwork. At 11:07 a.m., Teresa called me. Her tone had changed. Less scripted. "Amber, I'm going to be honest with you. This file is not sitting right." I sat down on my kitchen floor. She said the caller who followed up on the complaint twice was unusually focused on timing, not on patient safety, on whether the revocation would show in the portal before Monday. I stared at the fridge magnets on my refrigerator like they might hold me upright. I asked, "Was it a woman?" "Yes." "Did she give a name?" On one call, she said she was a concerned party. On the other, she said she was family. I swallowed and said, "Can you note that in writing?" Teresa paused. "I can note the contact history in the internal log. If this moves to reinstatement review, that log becomes part of the file." I said, "Thank you again, women, and thank you." The board moved faster than I expected after that. On Thursday, May 23rd, they scheduled a phone review for the next Tuesday. My offer from Sonoran Desert Dermatology was still frozen, but Paula texted me, "Keep me posted. Position not filled yet." My parents, meanwhile, changed tactics. My mother sent me a 3-paragraph email at 7:39 p.m. on Thursday. It opened with, "I am deeply saddened by your hostility. It continued by saying any action she took had been to preserve professional standards and ended with, "A truthful person would not fear scrutiny." That sentence is one of the strangest things about liars. They always describe exposure as a moral test you failed. My father emailed separately at 8:11 p.m. and said, "Your mother has been under terrible strain and does not deserve your insinuations. If you continue this campaign against her, there will be consequences within the family." I printed both. Friday morning, my brother Evan called from the parking lot of his landscaping job in Queen Creek. He is 22 and has spent most of his life choosing the easier parent. That morning, his voice sounded thin. "Mom asked me to say you need to stop emailing people," he said. "Then she can stop forging my name." A long silence. Then he said, "I saw her at Dad's desk Thursday night before your dinner. She had your school folder open." I didn't speak. He rushed on. "I did not think it was this. I thought she was doing some weird mom thing with keepsakes or your transcripts. She told me not to mention it because she wanted your dinner to be peaceful." I looked at the binder in front of me. "Will you put that in writing?" He said no at first. Of course he did. He started crying in that furious, embarrassed way some men cry when they hate that you can hear it. He said he did not want to get dragged into it, that Dad already blamed me for making the family look unstable, that Mom had not meant for me to lose everything. I let him talk. Then I said, very quietly, "Evan, I already lost the job. The only question now is whether you want your name next to the truth or next to them." He texted me at 2:13 p.m. I saw Mom at Dad's desk on Thursday 5:16 around 8:30 p.m. with Amber's school folder and forms spread out. She told me not to say anything. Save this. He followed it with, "Please don't tell them yet." I saved it. He had known something and stayed silent. Then he didn't. That mattered. The board review on Tuesday, May 28th, was by phone with 3 staff members and 1 compliance officer. I sat at Nia's table with my folders lined up and a legal pad I bought at Walgreens for $3.29. Teresa Hall was on the call. So was a compliance analyst named Jorge Mendez. Jorge asked me precise questions in a flat voice. Had I ever used the old email after 2022? No. Had I written the statement? No. Who had access to my prior records? I listed the school, my former apartment file, and my parents. Had anyone in my family expressed concerns about my certification before this? Yes, and I described the microphone at Firebirds. There was a beat after I said that. Then Teresa asked, would there be witnesses to that statement? I said, 32. She just said, noted. The call lasted 43 minutes. At the end, Jorge said they would compare metadata from the submitted email, verify the scanned signature sources, and contact the school directly about the visitor access issue. He did not promise anything, but at 11:58 a.m., 2 minutes after the call ended, I cried into Nia's dish towel, because for the first time I felt like someone in an office believed me before I had to perform my pain. That afternoon, my Aunt Karen called. Karen is my mother's older sister and the only person in that side of the family who still sends handwritten thank you notes. She said, "I need to tell you something unpleasant." I sat up straighter. "Okay. Your mother has been telling people your certification issue is because of medication." I actually laughed, just one short disbelieving sound. "What medication?" "I don't know. She did not specify. She implied instability. She wanted me to cancel the family barbecue next month if you plan to attend." I wrote down every word. Then Karen said something that landed harder than all of it. "I did not stop her at the restaurant quickly enough. I'm sorry for that. Some apologies come too late. Some still matter." I asked Karen whether she would be willing to host a dinner if I needed, all of this said in one room, once the board finished. She did not ask why. She just said, "Pick a day." On Friday, May 31st, at 4:22 p.m., Teresa Hall called me back. "Your certification is being reinstated immediately," she said. "Effective today." I sat on the floor again. Same kitchen tile, same refrigerator humming, different body. She continued. "The review found substantial evidence the complaint materials were falsified. Your status should update in the portal within the hour." I could barely get air in. "What evidence?" she said. "The attached confession originated from an IP address not associated with your account history and was sent through a spoof relay. The scanned hour sheets were composites." Also, the complainant made follow-up calls from a number that appears to belong to a private household member. Household member. Such a clean little phrase for your own mother. I asked if I could have the findings in writing. She said I would receive a reinstatement notice and a summary by secure email. When it arrived at 5:03 p.m., I printed 3 copies. Paula Kim at Sonoran Desert Dermatology called me at 5:28. Can you start Wednesday? She asked. I said yes before she finished the sentence. Then she said, payroll can also process the missed start period as back pay since the hold was based on a revoked status now reversed. It should come to $7,840 before tax once approved. $7,840, that was the cost of my parents' little lesson, at least on paper. I should tell you something here. Winning in one office does not make your body understand that you are safe. I still woke up at 3 in the morning for weeks after that with my jaw clenched hard enough to ache. I still jumped every time my email pinged. I had been keeping that folder for 11 days by then, and it already felt heavier than furniture. Saturday morning, June 1st, I sent one email to both parents, subject line, "My certification has been reinstated." I attached the board summary and wrote, "Do not contact my employer, school, or certification office again. If you want to discuss repayment for lost wages and related costs, do it in writing." My father replied at 9:14 a.m. with 4 words, "We reject your narrative." My mother replied 40 minutes later with a full paragraph insisting she had only raised concerns and had not expected the board to overreact. That was another admission hiding inside self-protection. I did not do this. Only I did not expect consequences. Priya told me to save that and stop talking. 3 days later, on Wednesday, June 5th, my first day at the dermatology office finally happened. The clinic smelled like chlorhexidine wipes and brewed coffee. The MA station had those terrible rolling stools that never sit at the height you want. Paula handed me my badge and said, "I'm glad you came back. I worked 12 hours that day because 2 medical assistants called out and I said yes to everything. Rooming patients, setting up trays, restocking biopsy punch kits, smiling until my cheeks hurt. I needed ordinary work more than revenge in that moment. I needed to hear printers, keyboards, blood pressure cuffs, and somebody asking if room 4 was ready. I needed something nobody in my family had touched. But revenge was still coming, quietly, in a private dining room with beige walls and sweating water glasses and exactly the right witnesses. Aunt Karen hosted the family dinner on Sunday, June 9th, at Basie Italian Bistro in Mesa because her house was under renovation and she wanted neutral ground. She told everyone it was to clear the air before summer birthdays. 21 people came. My parents came because they always come when they think they can retake the room. Priya had advised me not to make it sound like a trap. So I didn't. I simply invited the people who had either watched my mother humiliate me or helped carry her version afterward. Aunt Karen, Uncle Rob, Cousin Tessa, my brother Evan, my grandmother Louise, 2 of my mother's church friends, my father's golfing friend Mark, and because I had learned one thing by then, I invited outsiders too. Nia came, Marisol came. Dana from the school declined but sent an updated written statement. Sheila from the apartment complex declined as well. Teresa Hall could not come because of policy, but the board's compliance analyst, Jorge Mendez, said he could briefly attend to return certified copies if they had been requested by the affected individual. I requested them. People think justice arrives like thunder. Mine arrived in a gray button-down carrying a slim envelope. Dinner started at 6 p.m. The room smelled like garlic bread, red sauce, and too much air freshener from the hallway bathroom. My mother wore cream this time. My father ordered Cabernet before sitting down. Evan looked like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. For the first 20 minutes, everyone performed normal. Menus, bread basket, ice in glasses. My mother asking Nia where she worked now with that fake warmth she uses when she wants a witness to remember her as gracious. Then she turned to Aunt Karen and said loud enough for the table, "I do hope we are not here to make a spectacle out of a misunderstanding." I said no. We are here because the board asked for some documents to be returned to me in person. That was true. It just was not the whole truth. At 6:23, Jorge Mendez walked in. He was maybe 40, shaved head, wire-rim glasses, the kind of man who seems born to verify things. He asked for me by full name. Every conversation in the room stopped. He handed me the envelope and said, Ms. Bennett, these are the certified copies you requested of the reinstatement findings and contact log summary. My mother said very lightly, "That seems unnecessary." Jorge looked at her, then back at me. "Would you like me to explain what is included?" I said, "Yes, please." If you've ever sat at a table knowing one sentence is about to rearrange every face around you, you know this feeling. Your body gets very still. Not calm exactly, more like braced in a direction. And if this story has touched something in you, please like and subscribe. These stories matter because somebody out there is still being told they imagined the paper trail. Jorge opened the top page. His voice was neutral. The summary states that the revocation was reversed after review found the submitted admission statement was fraudulent, the externship documents were altered composites, and the follow-up calls seeking accelerated action came from the same phone number ending in 6418. My father's water glass stopped halfway to his mouth, Jorge continued, still not understanding the family geometry of what he was saying. That number was identified during review as belonging to the residence listed on the complainant's contact file. My grandmother Louise frowned. "Whose residence?" Jorge checked the page. "Dennis and Colleen Bennett." The room went quiet in one clean drop. My mother said, "There must be some confusion." Broken sentence, controlled tone, still trying. Then Jorge, because professionals are devastating when they are simply accurate, said, "There is also a note from staff member Teresa Hall that a female caller asked twice whether the revocation would appear before Monday so the employer would see it before start date." No one spoke. My cousin Tessa actually made a tiny sound, like she had inhaled wrong. Evan stared at the table. Aunt Karen put her napkin down with both hands. My father said we had concerns. Jorge did not answer him because Jorge was not there to debate morality. He was there to hand over paper. The board's position is that false materials were submitted. The certification was reinstated effective May 31st. Then he looked at me. "Do you need anything else from me, Ms. Bennett?" I said 1 second. "Was there a note about the school records?" He checked. "Yes. Visitor logs from the program and an address verification attempt from a former resident supported the finding that the materials did not originate from you." My mother corrected him too fast. "I did not get any address verification." That was the worst thing she could have said because nobody had accused her yet in that room of getting it. Only of attempting it. Jorge looked mildly puzzled. The note says attempted request, not successful release. Silence. My mother folded her hands in her lap. Pearl ring, neat nails, she said nothing else. It is hard to explain the feeling of watching a room update itself in real time. Aunt Karen's face went first from shock to anger. Mark, my father's golf friend, looked down like he wanted to disappear. One of my mother's church friends, Denise, whispered, "Colleen," in this horrified little breath. My grandmother turned to my father and said, "You knew?" He did not answer. Then Evan did something I had not expected. He looked up and said, "I saw her with Amber's school folder before the dinner." My mother's head snapped toward him. He kept going. "Dad was there. Mom told me not to mention it." My father said, "Evan, just his name, one warning." Nothing else. Evan looked like he might throw up, but he did not back down. "I should have told Amber Friday." Aunt Karen asked me, "Is this why she said what she said at Firebirds?" I nodded once. My mother finally spoke again, and this is the sentence I think about when people ask whether she was sorry. She said, "I was trying to prevent a larger embarrassment." Not "I was mistaken." Not "I panicked." Not "I'm sorry," a larger embarrassment. Marisol, who had been silent until then, put both palms on the table and said, "You tried to end her job before it started." Her voice was quiet. Somehow that made it worse. Jorge, to his credit, understood then that he had walked into a family detonation. He closed the folder and said, "I will leave you with your documents." My father started to say my name and stopped halfway through it. Then Jorge left. Nobody touched their food for at least a minute. I could hear the kitchen door swinging at the far end of the hallway and dishes hitting a rack. Aunt Karen turned to my mother and asked, "Did you forge those papers yourself?" My mother did not answer directly. "I did what I believed was necessary." My grandmother Louise pushed her chair back. "Necessary for what?" And there it was. The question my mother can never answer honestly because the honest answer is always control. I said, "The board reversed it. I started work Wednesday. Payroll is processing $7,840 in back pay. You will reimburse every expense connected to this: printing, record fees, mileage, and the scrubs I had to replace after losing the first start date. Priya helped me make the total. I slid a copy of the expense sheet across the table. The total was $8,312.64. My father looked at it and said, "You are monetizing family conflict." I said, "No, I'm itemizing what you cost me." There was another silence. This one lasted longer. Then Denise, one of my mother's church friends, said something unexpected. Colleen told the women's group Amber had a medication issue. I repeated it to two people. "I need to fix that." My mother closed her eyes for 1 second. Just one. That was the first visible crack. Not the crying kind, the social cost kind. After that, the room turned. Not in a dramatic movie way. In the real way, people asked practical questions. Who at the school let you access records? Did Dennis know before the dinner? Did you call the employer too? Had they done anything like this before? It was not about emotion anymore. It was inventory. My father answered almost nothing. My mother kept trying to frame everything as concern. She was moving too quickly. She had always needed more support than she admitted. We were trying to prevent future problems. The language was so polished it made her sound worse every time she used it. I did not argue, I did not plead. Instead, I handed Aunt Karen the reinstatement summary, gave Grandma Louise the visitor log copy from my school, and let Marisol explain how obviously fake the signatures were once you knew what to look for. At 7:11 p.m., my grandmother stood up and said, "I'm leaving." She did not look at me when she said it. She looked at my parents. Then she walked out with Aunt Karen behind her. Half the table followed within 5 minutes. That night, my mother sent me a text at 9:36 p.m. Public humiliation was unnecessary. I wrote back, "So was forgery." Then I blocked her. The concrete price came in pieces, which is usually how real consequences happen. First, my parents paid me. Not because they wanted to, because too many people had now seen the documents, and my father understood money better than shame. Priya drafted a repayment spreadsheet. Not legal threats, just dates, categories, totals, and due dates. Lost wages, printing, certified mail, mileage to Apache Junction, Tempe, Mesa, and Phoenix. Replacement onboarding items. Unreimbursed counseling intake because yes, I started therapy after this, and yes, I counted the first 2 sessions. The total remained $8,312.64. My father mailed a cashier's check for $5,000 on June 20th. The memo line said family support. Of course it did. I deposited it and kept the envelope. He mailed the remaining $3,312.64 on July 12th, after Aunt Karen told him she would not allow him to rename a debt as generosity in front of the family anymore. That sentence was hers, and I wish I had written it first. Second, my mother lost her job. She had worked part-time for 11 years as a bookkeeper at Desert Palms Community Church in Gilbert. Not glamorous, but it mattered to her because she liked access, records, schedules, the ability to know things first. After the dinner, Denise and another church member went to the senior pastor because my mother had used the women's group to spread lies about me and because the reinstatement summary showed she had manipulated official documents connected to my certification. The church asked to review her handling of several reimbursement forms and benevolence records she managed. They found 3 altered vendor signatures on event reimbursements over the previous 18 months. Small amounts, $190 here, $245 there. A refund rerouted through corrected paperwork. I'm not saying she stole thousands from the church. I'm saying the habits matched. On August 6th, she was fired. My Aunt Karen told me because my mother certainly wasn't going to. The official reason was document irregularities and breach of trust. My mother had to turn in her office keys that same afternoon. Third, they lost access to the family story they usually controlled. Grandma Louise changed her holiday plans and stopped hosting Christmas Eve at my parents' house in Sun Lakes. Aunt Karen took over. Denise called every woman she had repeated the medication lie to and corrected it. Tessa sent me the full video from Firebirds, including the moment before my mother took the microphone and whispered to the server, "Turn it slightly down after this." She had planned the cadence. When I watched that video, I felt almost nothing. Not numb, not healed, just exact. That is one of the cruelest parts of betrayal by parents. By the time the evidence arrives, your body has often already accepted things your heart is still trying to translate. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Lena Roth in Scottsdale in late June. Her waiting room smelled like eucalyptus and printer paper. On my third session, she said, "Your mother didn't just attack your future, she drafted institutions to do it for her." That was the cleanest sentence anybody had given me. Because that was the point. She did not want a fight she might lose in private. She wanted an office to stamp me into being less real. If you've ever had a parent who needed the world to confirm their version of you, then you know why this kind of betrayal cuts so deep. It is not just the lie, it is the architecture, the forms, the calls, the respectable tone. And right after this, one final detail came out that explained why my mother chose that exact weekend. In September, I got coffee with Dana Pickett from my old program. We met at a place in Tempe that smelled like espresso and orange peel cleaner. She looked more embarrassed than I had ever seen her. She said, "There's something I should have told you earlier." I waited. "Your mother asked me on May 16th whether your employer's start date was already set." I told her yes, Monday the 20th, because it was in the placement note she could see. I stared at her. Dana looked down into her cup. She asked whether a board status change would show publicly before then. There it was, the timing. Not panic, not concern. Scheduling. My mother had not simply wanted me stopped. She wanted me stopped at the exact hour it would hurt most. Badge day, first day scrubs, parking lot. Maximum humiliation with minimum room for recovery. I thanked Dana for telling me. Then I left and sat in my car for 12 minutes without starting it. It has been a little over 3 years now. I still work in medicine. I moved on from dermatology after 18 months and now work at a plastic surgery and skin oncology clinic in Scottsdale. I make $32.10 an hour, plus quarterly bonuses when collections are strong. I renewed every certification on time. I keep digital copies of everything in 3 places. I know where every signature came from before I trust it. I know how to read a metadata line. I know which institutions protect themselves first, and which people inside them still choose to do the decent thing anyway. Nia is still my best friend. Priya still jokes that my binder tabs were emotionally impressive. Evan and I speak sometimes, but carefully. He moved to Flagstaff last year and sends me photos of snow like a person trying on a softer life. Aunt Karen hosts Christmas Eve now. Grandma Louise stopped defending my mother in passive voice. As for my parents, I have not seen my mother in person since the funeral of my great aunt in February of last year. She nodded at me across a church lobby that smelled like lemon furniture polish and carnations. I nodded back, that was all. My father texted on my birthday this year, 3 words, "Hope you're well." I did not answer. People like neat endings. They want the villain exposed, the check deposited, the job restored, the lesson learned. Real life is messier than that. I won completely. My certification was restored, my wages were repaid, my mother lost the job she cared about and the family credibility she had used like a weapon for decades. The paper trail held, but there are things a win does not return. It does not give me back the first morning I sat in that parking lot in Mesa in brand new scrubs while my phone screen changed my future. It does not give me back the feeling that a graduation dinner is a safe place to be proud in front of your own family. It does not make it normal that I still save every voicemail from unknown numbers. I do not forgive them in the soft, easy way people mean when they say that word. I understand them more clearly than I used to, and sometimes that is the closest thing you get. What I have now is better than forgiveness anyway. I have accuracy. I have distance. I have my own keys, my own paychecks, my own records, my own name on every document that matters. And if my mother ever tries to use an office, a board, a clerk, a pastor, or a manager against me again, she will not be doing it to the 25-year-old woman who walked out of Firebirds shaking. She will be doing it to the woman who learned exactly how to build a folder and wait for the right room. And that woman